Hello fellow history buff. Today, we will be going over a short history of the Filipino cannery workers in Alaska. The history of the Filipino cannery workers of Alaska is a story of resilience, struggle, and perseverance. From the 1920s to the 1960s, tens of thousands of Filipino workers were recruited to work in the salmon canneries of Alaska. They were lured by the promise of a better life, but what they found was exploitation, discrimination, and abuse. This report will provide a brief history of the Filipino cannery workers of Alaska, focusing on their recruitment, working conditions, and struggles for justice and recognition. As early as the 1920s, Filipinos from Seattle were contracted to work in Alaskan canneries. These canneries offered summer work for students to pay for their studies. In 1930, more than 4,000 Alaskeros worked in the canneries. Recruitment. The recruitment of Filipino workers for the Alaska salmon canneries began in the 1920s as the demand for cheap labor increased. American companies saw an opportunity to tap into the large pool of unemployed Filipinos who were eager to leave their poverty-stricken country for a chance at a better life in America. The recruitment was facilitated by labor contractors who traveled to the Philippines and recruited workers from the rural areas. The recruiters promised the workers good wages, free housing, and food. They also promised to cover their travel expenses and provide them with medical care. However, the reality was far from the promises. Once the workers arrived in Alaska, they were forced to sign contracts that bound them to work for the companies for a long time. The cannery workers faced discrimination and abuse from the American employers and white co-workers. Many abuses occurred. Contractors who hired workers for the canneries sometimes forced Alaskeros to provide a bribe in exchange for employment. The contractors sometimes organized and controlled gambling in order to get more money from workers. Cannery workers also lived in often crowded, segregated, substandard housing while on the job. They were often paid lower wages than their white counterparts and were given the most dangerous and difficult tasks in the cannery. They were also subjected to racist remarks and physical violence. The Filipino workers were also segregated from the rest of the workforce. They were given separate facilities for eating, sleeping, and socializing. This segregation continued even after World War II, when the Philippines became a U.S. territory and Filipinos were granted American citizenship. Struggles for justice and recognition. Despite the harsh working conditions and discrimination they faced, the Filipino cannery workers organized themselves to demand better treatment and wages. They formed unions and went on strike several times in the 1930s and 1940s to demand better working conditions and fair wages. However, their struggles were met with resistance from the canning companies and government authorities. The Filipino workers also fought for recognition and inclusion in American society. They formed community organizations and cultural groups to preserve their heritage and promote their contributions to the American economy. They also played a crucial role in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, which led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Conclusion. The history of the Filipino cannery workers of Alaska is a testament to their resilience, determination, and perseverance in the face of exploitation and discrimination. Their struggles for justice and recognition paved the way for future generations of immigrants to fight for their rights and dignity in America. Today, the legacy of the Filipino cannery workers is celebrated through various cultural events and organizations which honor their contributions to American history and society. I hope you enjoyed the story of the Filipino cannery workers of Alaska. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you and see you in our next video.